Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how I do my black background edits. This is a picture I took a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago, and I'm going to show you how I took it from this picture to, this picture. So I'm going to go through my importing process, what I do before, and then exactly how I go through and edit it. And then I'll also tell you guys where I took this. I wish I had some behind the scenes, but I don't think I do. But I'll explain it to you where I took this picture. So here. Okay, I didn't think I had a behind the scenes picture, but I just found one. So here is where I took this image at. You can see I'm shooting from way outside the barn door. I was shooting with a 135mm lens, so I had to be pretty far back, but you want to make sure you have a long lens so that horse is not distorted in any way. So I was shooting quite a bit back, and my assistant took this picture. So you can see how that doorway creates a natural black background, and you want that horse kind of right at the doorway so that they have the light on them, and then it just kind of fades back naturally. I did not use any flashes of any kind. This is 100% natural lighting, and I love the lighting that day because it was cloudy. Some people love to shoot in full sun for black backgrounds. I prefer cloudy days because when you have full sun, depending on where the sun is, sometimes it's hard to move them back and not get, yellow tones depending on what time of day you're shooting in. So I like to shoot in cloudy days, and that is how that looks. And you can see from right here just how natural that is. And you want to make sure that everything behind the horse is closed. All doors, all windows. If there's windows, try and tape them up. You don't want any light leaking in from behind that horse. The only light source you want is coming from that doorway that horse is in. And this shed just worked out perfect for me. There was no windows. It was their hay shed. It worked out beautifully. It was so nice. I got almost a natural black background on every picture, so that was really, really, really nice. I really like that. Alrighty. First, I go through and I cull my pictures in Photo Mechanic, which is like a bridge, but it culls a little faster, and it's not really necessary unless you are doing a large quantity of pictures, which in this case I took black background sessions of 4 horses, so I had a ton of pictures. So I love Photo Mechanic for that. I'm also a wedding photographer, so that's why I use Photo Mechanic. It loads images in a JPEG format that are raw, so you can cull very quickly. So after I go through and I cull all of my images in Photo Mechanic, I take my selected pictures that I want, and I move those, import them into Lightroom. And then I go through and I do like a second cull in Lightroom, and I also keep pictures that might not be good, but I can keep like ears from, and I kind of go through and do a final culling once I get everything into Lightroom. And I keep some bloopers, obviously. Alright, so once I have it in Lightroom, I know, the 5 to 7 images that I want to edit. I come in and I don't even do anything in Lightroom before I bring it into Photoshop. I know a lot of people throw a preset on it before, but I like to do everything after I do my initial edits, just because I think that's easiest for my own workflow. So I'm going to go to edit in Adobe Photoshop. And then it's going to open my picture in Adobe Photoshop. I actually bring it into Photoshop usually twice. So this is the first time. The second time is just kind of to throw a watermark on it and export. But the first time is to do all the hard edits. Oh, that's taking forever. Come on, Photoshop. Oh, there it is. Okay, so first thing I do is I take out this lead rope. And normally I would go through and I would black out the whole background, but since the horse was white, the background is pretty much naturally black, so that worked out really well in my favor. So I add a new layer, and then I go to my clone tool, and there's different ways that you can take different things out, but I prefer the clone tool. So I go in, and normally I would just paint that black, but I want to make sure that everything's the same. My opacity is down. I gotta bring that up. Alright, and then I just go through and I take all this out, and then I'll actually add a black layer to take her out. might have to do 2 layers because I don't like how that's okay. So then I will go into that layer and I will add a layer mask, and then I will take out the part of the layer that I don't want with my black paintbrush. I'm gonna up my hardness a little bit. When doing the blurred lines like that, I usually like to keep my brush at 120 pixels with 0 hardness. I think that's a good hardness amount for that little blur. Alright, so then I just go through and I add that little edge back. Alrighty, and then I'm going to add a new layer since I added that mask right there, and now I can't clone over the top of it. So I'm going to go back to my clone tool, which is shortcut S if you don't know that. And then I'm just going to clone out this little chain. Oh, I didn't like that. And sometimes you don't get it perfect, so you have to go over and you have to blend it, which I might have to do here in a second. You want to make sure that you paint this in a way that it's natural. Like, I'm not gonna, come up here and just like paint over it like that. Like, that would look not natural. So I'm painting in a way that fits their anatomy and how that would look. And then once I do all that, I kind of bring it out, see how it looks from afar. I don't really love it, so I'm going to go take my opacity down, bring my brush up a little bit, and then I'm going to just kind of paint a little bit so that it looks a little bit more blurred and more natural. Like you can obviously tell that I kind of went in and brushed this up, so I'm going to just blend it all together with my opacity down. And then I'm going to add a layer mask to this layer as well, bring my brush size down, my hardness up, and I'm going to take out that little gold piece. Oh, I was on the clone tool, darn it. Okay, I have to do that again. Alright, so now I'm just going to go over this, make sure you can see everything. Okay, is that his chin? Yeah, it is. Alright, so now I'm just going to paint that back in, now that I can see it. Oh man, I have to sneeze. Whew, no I don't. Okay, good. Alright, now that I did all that, I'm going to bring it back out, see how it looks. I think it looks fine. Okay, I like how it looks. I think everything fits well. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to add my black layer to kind of make sure that everything's black in the background, or at least blend it in, because I know not everything's going to be like a true black, especially on the bottom. So I'm going to go in with a very soft brush and I'm just going to black that out in a new layer, obviously, so that if something messes up somewhere, I can delete it and I can do it again. I'm big on, you want to make sure all of your edits are not super permanent. So you never want to do everything, on your background layer. You want to make sure you have every single new layer for everything new that you do. So that way, if I mess up or I see that I did something wrong in that, I can go back later and I can delete it and I can do it again. Alright. So now you can see what I did. I'll up my layers so you can see where that black actually is. So you see how I did that? And where exactly I put that black. Alright, I'm going to take that back. And now that I have all of my other things fixed that I wanted to fix, I'm going to add a levels to my picture. So I'm going to take my blacks down, and if you hold down Option, you can actually see what's black and what's not. You can see what is exactly true black. So I'm going to hold down my Option key, and I'm going to black everything up to the horse. And normally, if I have a dark colored horse, I want to have a true black on that horse somewhere. That's kind of exactly how I like to do things. I like to have a true black on the horse and a true white as well on the horse. So I like to make sure that. But I know some people don't. Some people like to add mattes and stuff like that, so that's fine. Alright, I think that's far enough. And then I want to have a true white somewhere. So you can see there's absolutely no true whites that are blown out. So I want to have one true white somewhere. There. With white horses, it's so hard because they're so white. I think that's good enough for my Photoshop edit. So now that I'm done in Photoshop, I'm going to save the image. Just press save, not save as, save. And then it's going to save it, and it's going to bring it back up in my Lightroom as another picture so that I can edit it in Lightroom again. And then if you were to open this back up from Lightroom, you can open it as a Photoshop file so you can see all of this, and you can also open it up as like a flat image. Alright, so here is my edit that I just did. So what I like to do is I don't do much editing. A lot of people do a whole lot, and I like to just keep it super simple. So I go up, I up my texture. Oh, no, it's not what I like to do. I'm gonna up some highlights. Maybe? Yeah. Alright, I have my texture, I have my sharpening, and then I take my luminance way up. And you don't have to, I mean, this is completely me, what I want to do. So this is the part that's totally up to what you want to do. Kind of play around with it, see what works best for you. And different colored horses, you have to do different things, so just go through it and see what works best for you. I might up that a little bit. I like that. Alright, and then I'm going to go down to my yellows. And when you're shooting a white horse, there's usually, some yellow on him. So I'm going to go and I'm going to drop my yellow saturation down so that he's more of a white instead of a yellow. I'm taking all that yellow out of his coat. Which, if you have yellow halters, sometimes you kind of have to figure out what you want to do about that. But it doesn't change the halter too much, so I'm just going to take it down. And then you can also change the luminance on it. I might bring it up a little bit. There we go. Okay, I like how this is looking. And then one thing that I also do is I kind of go in and I brighten the eyes. I know a lot of people do this in Photoshop if they do this at all. And that is another way you can do it. You can literally paint it. But I just like to lighten them up a little bit, bring out kind of their true eye instead of painting it. Alright. This boy has some long eyelashes, good lord. Okay. I'm going to take my texture up, my highlights way up. My whites usually I take up depending on if there is any whites. There is some there. And then I'm going to up my shadows a little bit. And then sometimes I have to mess with my temperature because sometimes they'll be a little too brown and it looks fake. That's a little too red for how desaturated that picture is. So I'm going to take that saturation down a little bit, and then I'm going to bring it out and see how it looks. I like it. I like that. Alright. It looks natural, doesn't look fake, doesn't look painted on. I don't think. You might have a different opinion than me, but I really like that. So then I'm going to add a little bit of a highlight. I don't like to make these highlights fake. I like to make the highlights that were actually on the eye just kind of pop. So I'm just going to go over the highlighted parts and up that exposure a little bit. Not like that. Alright, let's see how that looks. I don't like that bottom line, that looks too fake. So I'm going to go through and take that out to do another brush. So I'm going to erase it, and then I'm going to add a new one that's a little less so powerful. There we go. Okay. That's a little better. I really like how that's looking. I think that looks pretty good. And then one thing that I sometimes do is I'll take a big brush and I'll just go over the head of the horse and just kind of make it pop out over the body, which it already pops out pretty well because of the f-stop was so low. My f-stop was a 2.0. So it's already pretty blurred back, but I'm going to pop it even more, especially with like bay horses and dark colored horses. I think this is really important to kind of make them pop. I'm going to up the texture a little bit on his head. Yeah, I can't up the clarity because he's gray. Maybe just a touch. I don't know if I like that. Alright, and then I like to take the blacks down a bit just to kind of blacken up that nose. There we go. And then whites. And I usually like to take my whites up, but if I'm shooting a white horse, that's kind of not very... it's going to make it pop a little bit. Alright, so let's see how that looks. Oh, I don't like those whites. They're a little too white for my liking. I'm going to take them down a touch. Alright, now let's see the difference between what just that brush on the head did. Where does it start? Okay, I think it starts right about here. So here's the before the brush, here's the after. It just kind of makes that pop just in the slightest bit, but just enough that it draws your eye in. Something to always keep in mind when you're shooting anything, no matter what kind of photography, equine, whatever, your eye is almost always drawn to the lightest part of the picture. So I like to make sure that the lightest part of my image, the truest white or the most true white, is where I want people's eye to go. So in this case, I want people's eyes to go straight to the horse's head and their eye. So I'm going to make sure that that head is the lightest part of my image because that's where I want to draw people into. So I think I'm pretty good with this picture. I really like the way it turned out. So here again, here's the before and here's the after. And then, like I said, I did not add a black layer to it to black the background out, but usually I do in cases where horses are dark and I have to take my exposure up a little bit. So, for instance, this horse is bay, and this was taken in the exact same spot, the exact same lighting circumstances, but since he was so dark, I had to take up my exposure a bit, and so that cost me that true black background. So I will have to go through and add a black layer that actually goes through and paints that black. So that's kind of depends on which horse you're shooting, how it looks, so I actually like the edit I just did on that better than the initial edit. It's funny how that works, right? Go through it and you do it again, and then it makes it even better. Alright, well, thank you guys so much for watching. I'd like to go through and do one where I actually do a behind the scenes to show you guys the best places to shoot. I haven't done a styled shoot yet in a while, so I will have to do that sometime soon. Let me know what you guys think. I can do any more other edits. I can do very complex edits. If you guys have anything to request, just let me know and I can show you guys how to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good day.